Hello and welcome to Off the Tangent podcast with me, Zak Bream. Today I have a pleasure of being joined by a person I've got the chance to know over the last couple of months. He is my neighbour. He grew up in Nigeria and has started many successful businesses. And now he has moved to the UK a couple of months ago to pursue his master's degree in cybersecurity. He's a man of deeply rooted faith and someone that I've got a chance to talk about religion with and had many interesting conversations with. And so thank you for joining me today, David Disu.
Thank you, Zach. It's so nice to be here.
Thank you. So before we started the podcast, we were just chatting a bit about your name, actually, because I know that in Nigeria people have quite long names.
Yeah.
So do you want to tell me a bit about that? Like, tell me why do people have very long names, and tell me about your name.
Okay, so the thing is, in Nigeria, so it's kind of like you're not just named by one person, like it's a thing of respect, I would say, kind of, where a child is born and then the parents, they ask maybe like the grandma, the grandpa. They'll be like, can you give our child a name our child and all. And then, so it's not, you then have like different names. So maybe the parents could give the child two names, and then the grandpa
Mm.
gives the child another name, and then the grandma, or they could decide that it will be one from the paternal side and one from the maternal side, you know. And then the child ends up with like lots of names, maybe six. Yeah. So
So is it like you've been born and everyone's in the background shouting names
no,
for
no,
you?
no, 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 not like that. No, not like that. So before the naming happens, they kind of like reach out to people who they just like would like to honor, I would say, because it's like a thing of honor
Mm.
for you to be given the privilege to name a child. Yeah, so that's it. So for me, I go by three names, like I mentioned earlier to you. It's David Oluwapelumi Disu. David Oluwapelumi
Yeah.
Disu. So I'm I'm a Yoruba boy. So that's the Yoruba tribe in Nigeria, one of the major tribes there. So my middle name Oluwapelumi is a Yoruba name. Yeah.
Is it linked to that tribe? Um,
Yeah,
the,
not necessarily. Yeah, it's a name from the tribe, I would say, but then I wouldn't say it's linked to the tribe. Like maybe it has some kind of like historical meaning or something like that. It's just it
mm.
means God is with me. That's just what it means.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Cool. So I would like to get into sort of your upbringing in Nigeria and get a sense of what Nigeria was like. Perhaps what was the political context of your upbringing? So as you're growing up, how was childhood growing up in Nigeria? Did you grow up in a city, like a rural village? Was there political tensions? Was it a sense of stability? Or what was it like?
Okay. So I grew up in Jos. That's Jos Plateau State. It's in the north central part of Nigeria. And the my early childhood growing there, that wasn't a period of it's been politically stable, and there were lots of conflicts in those period, and there was crisis, and that's what we call it. And that's another thing also I realized when I come in here.
Yeah,
We have certain names we call
yeah.
things in Nigeria, and then over here it's like kind of different. It's still the same word, but then it holds different meaning, you see. But that's another
Okay.
topic.
And what's
Yeah.
go into it a little bit. What
Okay.
sort of thing? What do you think? What would people call it in Nigeria that people in the UK might not understand?
So no, it's still about the same term. They're kind of closely related, but then to us, we kind of have like a specific meaning to it, the way we look at it. But then to it's something different. I'll give you an example now. I was just talking about how I said
Yeah.
there was crisis, like lots of crisis. Now, to us, we use the term crisis. I'm sure if I ask you, what is crisis? What comes to your mind? Just give it a go.
Probably an event where all hell is breaking out loose and it needs to be solved.
Good. Yeah, so that's crisis to you. But then to us in
Yeah.
Jos, especially for me who grew up in Jos, when we say crisis, we're talking about like riots, violence, it's kind of like a religious conflict. With people going out with
Okay, I
machetes,
see.
fighting and
Yeah.
lots of killings and mayhem. So
Mm.
that's the term we use there. So say crisis. I'm like, bro, crisis.
Mm.
So
It's almost on like a different scale to what I imagine a crisis would be.
yeah, I don't know
Like it's
how they coined the term, but then that was it. So
mm.
it's growing up in Jos was nice. It was okay. It was, I would say, safe for
Mm.
us. Where I lived in and where we stayed, um, it was okay. I don't know how else to describe it. It was just okay.
That's fair. Tell me about like what did your parents do? Like did you have a lot of siblings growing up? What was that like?
Okay, so um, growing up, my dad was a pastor. That's all I knew him to be because I guess I wasn't born before he became a pastor. So my dad was a pastor. My mom also in the same line. Yeah, and I had yeah, five siblings. Yes, I'm the sixth, so we are six children and five siblings.
Yeah.
And it was nice, normal childhood. I didn't grow up like in well, I said the rich side of Jaws because it's normal in every society where you have like the posh areas and then the slums and all that. So
Mm.
where I grew up was just it was just there. It wasn't
Yeah.
yeah, it wasn't the rich neighborhood, and it was
That's
formed.
I was just gonna say I actually didn't know that your dad was a pastor. Um that what role do you think the pastor plays in Nigerian society? Do you think it's a quite respected role and someone that people look up to in the community? Because I'd say in the UK, where you have like priests and bishops, I'd say that their role in society is slowly becoming less important. People don't go to church as much in the UK as perhaps they once did 50 years ago, and people are becoming less religious. So I'd say the influence of the church in the UK is diminished quite a lot over recent years. Do you think that the Nigerian population is still a very religious one? And would you say that a lot of people go to church in your community and very much focus on their faith?
Um, yeah, I think yeah, comparing the UK and Nigeria, for sure, I would say um, that part of the world, not just Nigeria, but West Africa and all, Africa generally, I would say we are really religious and
Mm.
um, it's something that's really kind of like part of us, and it has become a thing of culture, I would say, in a way, because now the reason why I mentioned culture is that you have, due to religious beliefs, the Muslims and the Christians and all, you have some of these newfound religions replacing some of like the existing cultures. Yeah.
Mm.
So whereby maybe like they have certain cultures where they could maybe offer sacrifices and they do this, and then you see lots of people no longer participating in that because um, they are now, Christians and all. So it's something that has really gained, has like a deep root religion in Nigeria, to the extent that it replaces even the culture. And then talking about it's being respectable, like the role of a pastor or a bishop or priest. I feel like it's still being respected for sure. Um, Yeah, I would say they are respectable people. I grew up in that environment, so I know uh, from my own perspective, I would say it's quite
Yeah,
respectable. There's just I don't know, something keeps skipping in my mind. Anyway, let's go on. I wanted
that's
to,
fair. That's fair.
yeah.
Wait, do you think if I imagine growing up with a dad that was a pastor, I would imagine environments where it's really strict. Would you say that was the case, or would you say it was pretty relaxed? How do you think it was?
Strict. So, what do you mean by
Yeah,
strict?
I don't know. I think. Well, I suppose that's a difficult question. I think that I would, if I actually think about what I think is strict, I suppose I would measure it compared to other families that I know. So, like, if you look at in social media or other families you might know, you might measure the strictness of their parents, like how well the children listen to their parents, or how much the control the parents have over the children. And I'd say that my measure of strictness is probably very relative and dependent on the families and people I grew up around and seeing our families. So I suppose it is subjective. Do you think that relative to your friends' families, uh, your parents were more strict or less strict?
Um, by your definition of strict, I would say all Nigerian parents are strict.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yes, yes.
Are they
So,
trying to get you married early?
well, not really, not really. I'm not sure
Not
that's
really.
the case. Most people do that, but then I'm not sure that's
Yeah.
always the case. So, no, 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 no. For me, growing up, I wouldn't say my dad was strict or my mom.
Mm.
Yeah, because the thing is, maybe I felt they were strict then,
Mm.
but then growing up and seeing a lot of things and realizing a lot of things, seeing how life pan out from for different people, your mates growing up, and you then begin to appreciate some of the things they did. And I don't
Mm.
really find all those the protection and the space they created for us as them being strict because yeah, I really appreciate it, and I think I'll do the same for my own kids.
Yeah. That makes sense. If you see the visible benefits of the parenting style, then
Yeah,
you appreciate it.
yes, yeah.
That makes Listen, I want to get into a topic that when I was planning what to talk about in this podcast, I was thinking about a lot, and I find it quite interesting, especially so the UK and Nigeria have a lot of history and an overlap of that history, mainly to do with colonization. Do you think colonization, I would say, is something that in the UK we don't really talk about anymore?
Hmm.
It's not actually taught about that much in our history classes at school. I think it's something that people know about if they know the general term of colonization, but they don't know much about it unless you kind of go into history when you're older and perhaps research it yourself and read about it. Is so Nigeria was a UK colony. Do you think that colonization is still discussed in Nigeria? Do you think it plays a role in where Nigerian society is at now? Like what is it still discussed and does it still have influence? That's sort of my question.
Yeah, for sure. But it being discussed, I don't think so much. Um, can't really remember having so much conversations about the British colonialism. Um, I feel like a lot of times when people talk about Nigeria, they kind of like just blame the leaderships that took over after the British left. And most times when they blame the British, they normally say it's because of how they did the handing over, you know. So that's why Nigeria turned out the way it is. They could have done better and all, but most times it's kind of like past leaders talking about corrupt politicians and all. Don't really talk much about the British. And then something else again with Nigeria is the fact that um, they're not so big on history. I don't know if it has changed,
Mm.
but when I was going through, because our schooling system in Nigeria, we have the primary, we have secondary, and then we have like tertiary university, that's the university, tertiary institutions.
Mm.
So I uh, during my own time, the primary and the secondary, especially the secondary, we were not really taught history, and
Mm.
we're not really like sh how do I put it? Like where they go in depth. They kind of just like gloss over it with some in some subjects like social studies, then where they ask you like questions when Nigeria get her independence, who was like the um, who amalgamated Nigeria together, stuff like that. Just little shallow stuff, but not really
Mm.
going into details. I don't know why. Maybe they don't have proper records for it. I don't know, or
Mm.
maybe they're hiding it. So it's not really like a big thing where you see like an average Nigerian and the person can give you facts about Nigerian history. You only find out among the elderlies, not really among the Gen Z generations and all. So
Okay, that's quite interesting.
yeah.
Because I would imagine as well, if because obviously if you go to perhaps an elder person, their view on history might be subjective as well. You might not be necessarily getting the factual view of what happened, like very opinion based.
Mhm. Yeah.
So that's interesting. I mean, when I think about why we perhaps have history, um, I think the role of learning history is to learn from the mistakes of the past. Um, I remember in a conversation we've had in the past, we talked about how me and you do things differently in the sense that when I have an idea, I like to try and just dive in, and oftentimes I will fail because I've just dived straight in without proper research or planning, let's say. And but for me personally, I learn very well from those mistakes. Like I feel them strongly, so I learn well. Whereas you told me that for you, you don't like feeling those failures. You'd rather learn from other people's mistakes. Like there's millions of people out there that have made those mistakes. You can learn from them, and I think that highlights the value of history. Where it's almost like we see, if you learn the country's mistakes, you can kind of see um, where not to go again. Do you think that it is the purpose of the government to not teach history in Nigeria, or it's just a lack of funding or a lack of importance on it? Do you think there's a cynical reason, or do you think it's just as simple as, oh, there's not enough money to teach history?
I don't think it's not about enough money. Um, no, I don't think so. I feel like um I feel like maybe I'm just saying I'm not certain. It's because when you see people trying to cover up history, it's maybe because they're trying to hide something, you know.
Hmm.
Yeah, so it's possible that s- certain people do not want certain things to be spoken about and discussed and critically analyzed. It's possible that because another aspect I would say is likely that they just don't have the proper resources. Because another
Hmm.
thing also you'll find in Nigeria when you talk about history is that when you start maybe because there was a time I was really going through some of the historical contents I found on Wikipedia. This was like um, pre-colonial era, I know, and it was
Hmm.
really old stuff. Going through
Hmm.
them and then talking about them, having discussions with a few elderly people that I had the privilege of interacting with. Most of them, this is what they tell me. They said, "Look, what you have is false knowledge, is false history." I said, no, but I got this from maybe like the um Britannica. I found this there recorded, or I saw this on the, Wikipedia. And they were like, no, that is completely false. That is wrong.
Hmm.
Some people have, they've adulterated the whole thing. It's not, it's false information. So when you have stuff like that going on, people not agreeing on what history is, then
Hmm.
I feel like it will also affect teaching the next generation. You see what I mean? Because you need to agree on history and say this is history, and you can prove that. this is true, this is valid, this happened, this documented, these are artifacts to show. But then when a diverse nation, a diverse people do not agree, everyone having their own story, then how do you teach? How do you teach everyone? Because it has to become something that will be fit into the curriculum for
Mm.
every child growing up in Nigeria. And Nigeria is a very diverse place. So I
Yeah.
really don't know why. I kept thinking about it. One of them
Mm.
told me, he said, if I really want to know much about the history of a place, so whenever I visit a place in Nigeria, I should look for their museum, and then I should try to like, just look at stuff and ask questions.
Mm.
Anyway, lots of
Yeah.
stories. So
Yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine. Um, I wanted to discuss. Uh, you told me about perhaps some businesses that you started and like your journey to the UK. Because I was curious like how someone got to the UK, like from Nigeria, like how they made that journey, and you told me that it was through the process of starting different businesses. Tell me when you started your first business and like what drove that feeling of wanting to start a business? Because I'd say in the UK, there's a lot of jobs already out there. Not many people start businesses. It's high risk. Uh, do you think that in Nigeria there's more of a culture of wanting to start your own business, like trying to make those opportunities for yourself? What drove you at the beginning?
okay, yeah. In Nigeria, everyone starts a business. I don't know whether
Yeah,
it's registered, it's not registered. Everyone starts a business.
really.
You literally like the other day I was scrolling through my phone, and then I saw a guy who happened to just have like a plank. This
Yeah,
just a short plank, literally like this, kind of. And then he was placing it in between. It was kind of. It's not a proper road, but then it has like a
yeah.
gap in between, like a gutter. And then he
Okay.
placed the plank, and then people drive on their bike over it, and then they pay him money, and then he takes the plank out. And then the next person, he collects money, he places the plank, and then he drives over. So you're like, bro has literally constructed a bridge for himself and he's earning his own money. Literally, like
Interesting.
everyone has, it doesn't have to be registered. Like you
Yeah.
see names of businesses registered everywhere. So, not registered, I mean, names of business with billboards everywhere, but then
Uh,
not registered. It's just his business. It's like my business. I'm running my
oh,
business. And then everyone calls themselves like I'm the CEO, CEO this, CEO
yeah.
that, and all that. So
Wow.
anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, Nigeria is a crazy place. Anyway, for me, my starting point, I will say it's in tech. So I learned how to code,
Mm.
programming, writing, basically web development. That was my main area. So building web apps and all.
Mhm.
And because in order for you to start a business, you need capital. You see,
Yeah.
you need to be able to fund it. So for me, I would say my capital came from the money my mom gave me to get a laptop, because that
Mhm.
was where I started. So with the laptop, I was able to, you know, get a job. And then I'm kind of like skipping a lot of things that have happened behind down the road, but I'll just start out where I feel like is the most important.
Mm.
And that is when I got like a remote job as a web developer or a software developer, I would say, for a company that was, I think it was registered in the US, you see.
Mm.
So I was working as a contractor, because that's who we are. We're not employees, but then as a contractor. So I had like a contract with that US based company, and then they paid me in USD equivalent, but then they sent it to my account in Naira and all. So that was where I started. So the money was coming in. Was it much? No, it's much, bro.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say it's not much.
Yeah.
When I say it's much, I don't mean like it's much. I'm just saying from where I was previously, before I got that,
Yeah.
it was much. Like
Yeah.
really, really much. Bro, it blew my mind away. It was
Really?
crazy. I'm not gonna lie. I've I've earned more than that since
Yeah.
then. But whenever I think about the feeling I had earning that, bro, man,
Give me a
it's
sense,
insane.
because I can imagine if you're being paid by an American company in US dollars and the exchange rate to
Yeah.
Nigeria, I can imagine it's amazing. Like, we don't have to get into details if you want to, but I'm just so curious, like, how different it was from before. Like, let's say I don't know what you're working as before, but then to get a job in US dollars, I can imagine that you could get whatever you wanted in Nigeria. What was it like that? Was it like that where
Yeah,
you
it was there was a wide gap. So it was a wide gap. Um, about that time, I didn't. I'm trying to think about how much I'll say I was probably earning in a month.
Hmm.
So, and the exchange rate is, I'll say it's a little better then, not now. It was like maybe 15,000 naira. Let's just say 15,000 naira. 15,000 naira is really, really low. Even if you check it now, it's really bad. So then maybe it was like um maybe $20. I
Hmm.
don't know, thereabout. So
What would
then
that
this
be?
was multiple of it.
Would that be a month? Would that be per
Yeah,
contract?
yeah, that's a month.
twenty
That's a
dollars per
month
month. So
in Nigeria. That's in
okay,
Nigeria, like yeah,
so
before I got that stuff.
so I feel like it's important to put in context because for me, $20 doesn't sound a lot because I'm in UK context. So put it into context of Nigeria. Let's say you went out for a meal. How much would a meal
Mhm.
be? Like you can say it in dollars or lira. If it's 20,000, it's $20 15,000 lira. Is that about what it is? Or,
So then the exchange rate is different now. I
okay.
guess $20 now will be the equivalent of man, I can't say. Let me just Google it.
That's all right. That's all right.
I'll just yeah, I'll just Google it
Because I
now
think for me,
because just to see.
when I think about exchange rate, like when I go to different countries and I try and gauge the
Mhm,
price, for me, I always put it in the context of food because if I go to the UK and I go to a restaurant, I'm probably spending
mhm.
like one main portion is probably like £13 or something. Whereas if I go somewhere to like Denmark, it might be like £17. Or if I go somewhere like Eastern Europe, it might be only like £6 for a meal. So I always gauge it like that. So that's why I'm asking that in Nigeria, like how much would a meal be like relative? How much do you think it would be?
Okay. Oh, okay. The thing is, I wouldn't eat where you're eating in Denmark, you see, because they're gonna overcharge you. But then, if I was to have a meal in Nigeria back then
Yeah.
with my 15,000 naira, I'll probably just pay maybe 500 naira,
Okay. Okay. I
700
see.
thereabout. Yeah,
Yeah.
kind of like in the small kind of. We call them buka. They are restaurants, but then it's called a buka. Just go there, sit down, rice, meat, and all,
Yeah.
and you're good. So it's not like a fancy restaurant and all where you go spend lots of money.
That's
So yeah, $20 now is just about maybe 31,000 naira,
okay. I see.
thereabout. Yeah, so
Mm. So it'd
yeah,
basically be
for
less
a
than
whole
a dollar,
month,
less than a dollar for a meal. You put like that's what we're saying. Like
yeah,
yeah,
probably.
that makes sense. Okay, so that makes sense. So you get this software job, and you're like, oh, now I'm rolling in the money. So do you think there was a point where you're like, okay, so what happened after the software job? When did you start thinking about university? Was that a long time afterwards, or like what age were you when you started the software job?
I was, I think I was like 21,
Hmm.
so I
Okay.
was 21, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I got the job and then it was like a huge leap because I was like coming from like 10,000, 15,000, and that was like really low. So it just shut me up. And it wasn't thinking about it now, it's not so much a big an amount. I don't want to mention exactly how much it is, but then really I'm not joking. It's not so much
Yeah.
right now. If I mention it, a lot of people will be like, bro, what's that? It's not even anything. But man, it was. a lot for me. I'm not
Yeah, that's good.
so, but that was the first, and I was kind of like super excited about it. And before that, also, there was kind of like a little gig I did with some of my friends where we came
Mhm.
together. We were able to build, um, what was it called? It was like a waste management system
Okay.
for someone in Lagos, kind of like a big guy.
Mhm.
And we got paid. It was kind of a lot also for me then. It was a lot, bro.
Yeah.
It was a lot. Yeah, it was a lot. I'm not gonna say it's not a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah, yeah.
And we kind of split the money among ourselves, and I got a nice share.
Yeah.
It wasn't as much as what I later got with the, software contractor work, but I'm just trying to build
The
the,
picture. That's good.
I'm just
Yeah.
trying to build the picture for you of where I'm coming from and how much I really appreciated what I got.
Yeah, that's perfect.
You understand?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because right now, if I want to look at it, it's just like it's nothing.
Yeah, yeah.
But
At the time.
it was a lot for me.
Yeah, yeah. So what were your next
So
steps?
after I did
Yeah,
that,
go on.
okay, yeah. So after I did that, I kind of like things started stabilizing little by little. Able to take care of a few things, little by little, just doing them, living a simple life, and um, saving alongside. So it got to a point where I felt like I needed to like start, investing, um, have something also that I could like, you know, go into, so I don't just strictly depend on just one source of income, you
Mm.
know, because in Nigeria, you're not safe that way.
No.
You have to like diversify, you know. So one of the thoughts that I had then was um, to go into building, like construction,
Mm.
no. So, but then the thing about starting up like businesses in Nigeria, you have to like be really cautious
Mm.
because, I was explaining to you when we had the chat the other time, that you, whenever what I learned, when going into business is that you need to make sure that whoever you're dealing with or whoever you're going into business with, um, really, really knows about that business and has experience about it,
Mm.
you know. And then that is if you do not have the experience and you don't really, really know. So for me, where I come from was the software part. So yeah, before I went into building, I guess I skipped the first. The first I did was to register a business where I offer IT services. I got an office space and set it up with chairs and all, and employed a few people. So it was IT business, you want to build like a website, you want to do this and that, then we can offer you the service because that's what I know, and I know how to handle that. If I'm giving you like an estimate, I know how to estimate, I know how to, what we'll put into the work, how much we're gonna earn, stuff like that, because it's my own area, and then I can handle it,
Yeah,
you
makes
know.
sense.
But then now saying you want to diversify and go into other aspects, it now because now you wouldn't know everything. You don't have all the knowledge. So
Mm.
you have to make sure you have someone who you really, really, really trust. I have to emphasize on this.
Yeah,
You trust him like really well.
yeah.
And then after trusting him, you make sure he also knows God. Like, bro, I'm not playing.
He has to what? He has
Because
to be a
if he has
Christian
the
man.
fear of God,
Yeah,
bro, if he has the fear of God,
yeah.
such that he fears God, he wouldn't cheat you, then you're safe. But if he doesn't fear God, bro, you're gonna fear him at the end. He's gonna deal with you really bad.
Yeah,
So that's kind of like my principle.
yeah. Okay, that's a good
Only
start.
going to business. Yeah, that's kind of like my principle. Going to business that you that you have experience in, that you've worked maybe in that industry for years, you know the system, you know how it is. So for me, I've been there. I know I've started working remotely. I've, done all those. So I understood it. So I could handle that aspect. But then other aspects, you need to make sure, because like now, talking about construction and building,
Mm.
I had a bad experience. And I was, because when you say you want to go into construction, you want to build, one of the first things you need is to say, okay, I need a piece of land,
Yeah.
like a property. And then you build on it, you think of what to do. So there was this family friend who says, "Oh, I have a friend. He told me the government is selling some property, some piece of land
Yeah.
in the outskirts, like that. And it's really going for like giveaway prizes. They're already working on some. They're dividing them into plots and all." So it was like, I should come because people are rushing it, and it will soon, very soon, nothing is going to be left. And I was like, okay, okay, okay. I was kind of enthusiastic because at that point I was looking to, expand.
Mm.
So we saw the place. He told me, okay, these are like the requirements that I'll pay to him.
Mm.
And then they kind of like put everyone, because he is also having other people that come and then they pay. And then he will submit everything to the government, and then they process it. They'll send us our ROO, papers and all like that.
Mm.
Bro, I was gonna I was gonna like um put put in a good amount of money in it.
Yeah.
I went with my mom that day.
Mm.
Lucky for me, I went with my mom. So we saw the whole place and all. We're like, okay, okay. So I was kind of like excited. I wanted to put in a lot of money. My mom was like, no, no, no. That's stuff like this, especially when you don't have like a direct contact. Someone is saying me to,
Mm.
you need to be careful. So even if at all you want to do it, just put something really small and just see how it
Mm.
goes. Don't get too excited. Don't be in a hurry. I'm glad I took her advice. So I just decided, I said, okay, I'm gonna pay for a plot.
Yeah.
Bro, paid for one plot. I can tell you, till date, no plot.
Wow.
My money, I got refunded a part of the
Yeah.
money, but then I still have like a large chunk of it not
So
refunded
what was the cause of that?
up
Did
till now.
they was it so were they selling you just a plot of land that you could build something on, and then they ran, or
Yeah.
what happened?
So not like the run. The guy, it's the other thing also is like the I don't know what to call it, but anyway, what will you do? I don't know what to say, because it's not like we had it was kind of like a thing of, I'm doing you a favor,
Yeah.
you know, and then there's no legal contract or legal binding agreement between
Mm.
me and the person offering it. And then I can take him to the police station, because in the end it will just be waste of time and argument. And then he's saying like, don't worry. What actually happened is that the government, they sold the piece of land, the properties, to someone
Mm.
else. So I was like, okay, okay, I agree. They sold it out. I gave you my money. Return it back.
Yeah.
As simple as that, right?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Oh,
And then so he's like,
oh
oh
no.
well, the money's not with me, it's with them, so they're gonna return it and all that. So, bro,
Yeah.
it's been, I don't know how long now. It's been a long
So
time.
you went through that,
Nothing.
and then you were like, you
Yeah,
experienced that
I
loss,
did.
and you're like, all right, I need to be very, very.
Yeah, yes. So you need to make sure that's what I learned. You need to make sure you trust the person really, really well. Like, you're sure that person will not screw you over. Like, literally. So you have to, and then if you get someone who fears God,
Yeah.
even better for you, man, because even better. I'm not joking. Yeah, so I did that, and most recently, what a business I was setting up in Nigeria before I came here to school, and I was planning to go into even more is rentals, because like we have lots of events in Nigeria. So lots of rentals, and you make a lot of money from it. I got a drone while I'm here. My intention is to send it back to Nigeria. So I have like one of those DJI Mark 3 Pro, Mavic 3 Pro, yeah, drones. And man, it's really profitable
Wait,
stuff.
why why
And it's,
why did you want to get a drone? What's the link there with the rentals?
yeah. So you rent them out, like people that want to for like events, parties.
Yeah.
So maybe here is different because you have like most of your parties indoors.
Mm.
But then when people get married, we have like receptions where you have like large outdoor
Hmm.
events. Then you see people wanting to fly drones as part of the recording
Okay.
footage for
Yeah, I
it.
see.
Um, even even for most political events, rallies and all, they need drones. There are lots of stuff. So it's kind of like in demand, and not just any drone, because there are lots of cheap drones out there that have low quality. Like
Mm.
getting good proper drones that can shoot, some nice high quality footage, cinematic footage.
Okay, okay, that's an interesting one.
So yeah, so yeah, I've like a digital mixer, stuff like that, and
Okay, so you
so
basically you have your hand in a lot of pies. You're saying about how you need to diversify in Nigeria. It's important to not be too reliant on one thing.
yeah,
Um, you
exactly.
mentioned about the construction. So you had that first instance where it didn't necessarily go well, uh, and then you tried again. What was the next time like?
Yeah. So the next time was
Yeah,
beautiful. It was better. Yeah, so it was
that's good.
better, and
Tell me about the process then.
I'm
Like
glad.
what did you want to build and how did you do it?
So it's not really big. Look at me, I'm not like some kind of like um how do I put it? Kind of like a billionaire or all these millionaires here in pounds
Yeah,
and all. No, 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 no. I'm just me,
yeah.
But so it's just something small, but then it's like a huge achievement for
Mhm.
me. I was really happy for like the completion of the first one, which was just like kind of like similar to what we have here,
Mhm.
flats, but then like four flats in a building. Yeah, so it's like an apartment building with like four
Mhm.
flats. So it's kitchen, toilets, and all that. So, and then I'm currently building also. So,
And you had a friend, right, that you
and
trusted. Like, was he a God-fearing man?
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, oh, he is.
Yeah, that's good.
Oh, he is. And then he helped me save like a lot in terms of like the cost of building,
Mhm.
because like I said, if you have someone who has lots of experience in that field, then you can trust his judgment because you don't really know much. So he can advise, he can tell you, oh, okay, I don't think this should cost this much. I know how much it is. He can deal with the wholesaler
Mhm.
guys and just get it a lot cheaper. Um, he when dealing with those different aspects of the building, he is already in that field, so um, he knows if someone is trying to cheat you, because sometimes in the quotation they might bring to
Mhm.
you, they might give you a quotation with inflated prices, and then you don't really know anything. You just like, oh, okay, so this is how much. Okay, you just dish out the money, and then they go out, they buy it for like a lower price. Sometimes they normally have like some kind of negotiation with the sellers. So they'll call the sellers and say, look, uh, I know you're selling it for this price, but tell me you're charging this price, so that when I speak to this person and I call you, so that you confirm, you will say, yeah, it's this, and then we split the top.
I see.
So they do that. Sometimes they may
Mhm.
overquote like what is so needed. So let's say maybe you're tiling an apartment, and for the tiles you need like well, I call it maybe like 8 cartons of tiles, I'm just assuming, and then they could put like 20 cartons of
Mm.
tiles. And then you wouldn't know how many tiles it takes to be able to like, do a whole
No.
flat. You just be like, okay, okay, yeah, yeah, 20, okay. And then you could even go to the markets to confirm how much the price of tile per carton is, and you will get the actual price which they gave you. So it's not like, but then you wouldn't know that the quantity is
Mm.
more. And then they buy it, they do the work, stuff like that. So because he's his field, he knows. He's like, no, this is too much for this. This needs to be cut down. This is that. He can.
Yeah.
So it's
Well,
amazing, an amazing
yeah, that sounds
experience.
like, yeah, go
Someone,
on.
yeah, I said someone that you trust that has experience in that field and fears God, man.
I think the fear in
That's all
God
you
is
need.
such an interesting aspect because um, I feel like religion is not much talked about in the UK. I know it's different in America where America, religion is very integral to their society. They're very Christian. There's yet to be a president of America that has not called themselves a Christian. There's not been an atheist president yet. That's it's almost like if they admitted that they
Oh,
were not Christian, people would not see them as trustworthy, as believe like as God fearing men, as you're talking about. Whereas in the UK, it's sort of the
yeah.
opposite. I feel like politicians rarely talk about religion. Um, I think people are outspoken atheists, and it's not integral to being trustworthy. It's very, very different. Do you think what role does religion play in your life? Would you say you're a person of strong faith? You go to church. Um, do you think it's a guide for your morals? Like, how do you view religion to yourself? Like, what do you use it as for?
I'm not sure I really understand how to answer your question, but I feel like religion plays for me. It's like my lifestyle. That's just how I see it.
Mm,
I don't really know how else to describe it. It's just my lifestyle, and I feel like it
mm,
should be the lifestyle of everyone. It's not about going to church. It's not about calling yourself a Christian. It's not about um, all these activities that you use to qualify yourself as a Christian. Some people will say, ah, you don't drink, you don't smoke, you're Christian. But then the statue that is in front of the train station here in Huddersfield doesn't drink, doesn't smoke. Is a Christian also, you know. Yeah, I just use that as an example, but that,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
So it's not like it's like having knowing God, having a relationship with Him, and then just allowing Him to shape your life. That's it. Like
mm,
what you speak about, how you speak, how you interact with people, how you love. Um, that's just it for me, you
How do you
know.
think it influences? Do you personally would you pray to God and you feel like there is a sense that He is like watching you and guiding your path? Like every time you make a decision, do you feel like He is in the background guiding that decision? Or how does it feel to you?
Yeah, so for me, it feels like um, I try to involve Him in most of my decisions, like deep decisions, like, when you want to make some important
Mm,
decisions, you need to like have hear from Him, let Him guide you. So it's not like you're just making the decisions and then He's following you around. It's kind of like you hit a roadblock and you're like, okay, so what's the way forward? It's just literally like having like a map, but then the map is like a person, I would say, you know,
mm,
that is there to be able to help you navigate. So
yeah.
um, there was kind of like an example that came to my mind, and it was just skipped my mind. But
That's
yeah,
okay. Do you think that heaven and hell? So do you believe in heaven and hell? Like do you because most of the Christian teachings do you believe in? Is there any because I feel like there's a lot of different denominations of Christians and different beliefs. So like some will believe in evolution, some will believe that the earth was made in 7 days. Some will believe in heaven, hell. Some won't. What views do yours align with?
Um, the thing is, there are lots of like topics around, Christianity and beliefs and all, but uh, the main thing is I keep telling people, especially when they kind of like try to draw me into conversations like that, I'm like, bro, it doesn't matter. Now, let me tell
Okay.
you what matters a lot. To me, I feel like what matters is knowing God,
Mm.
knowing Jesus that came, he died for you. I know you are not Christian, so you might not really
No.
understand what I'm trying to say, but then yeah, I'll just say it for the benefit of, viewers and all. So
Yeah.
it's having a relationship with God, knowing him, and then allowing him to guide you. So that's like for me the most important part. Now, with regards to all the other extra things that are around, bro, let God just guide you. Like have a relationship with him. Now, excesses or things he doesn't want you to get involved with, he will let you know. That's the thing about having a
Mm.
relationship with someone, with God. He will let you know. He will reveal himself to you to even more and more, and you have like a better understanding. So it's not about having like debates, because I know that a lot of people get drawn and get caught up in like little debates. Is this good? Is this not good? This is right. This is how it's supposed to be. This is how, bro, bro. All you just need is to have a relationship with God. He will let you
Yeah.
know. Like I can't convince anyone. The other day we were talking and I told you, I said, look, I can't convince you to believe in God. I literally don't have the capacity to do it. It's only God who can do that to
Yeah.
you. The only thing is,
Yeah.
which I can probably just tell you to do, is just to take a leap of faith and just have faith. And
Mm.
then once you do, He Himself will reveal Himself to you, and He'll, you get your own experience, and you'll be able to, have answers, all the answers to all your questions. It's just having
Mm.
know God, have a relationship with Him, speak to Him every day, have
Mm.
conversations, draw closer to Him. He will reveal everything. He will literally change your life. And then when
Mm.
He changes your
I think.
life, that's the part where I talk about like your lifestyle. You just see it evident in
Yeah.
your lifestyle. Your life, the way you live will just be different. Certain things
Mm.
you probably felt comfortable with, you find yourself maybe not being comfortable with them anymore. Certain things you were not comfortable with, you find yourself start being comfortable with them. So it's not a thing of like trying to follow some kind of like rule book or like a guide, and it's this is how this person did it. I'm gonna do it like that. No,
Mm.
allow God to guide you. So he's like
Yeah.
your own personal
I
navigator.
think I think that the reason why I tackle it like that is because obviously like my background is in engineering, it's in science. So if someone tells me a fact, if someone tells me something or a belief system or anything really, my
Mhm.
first thought is to question it, is dissect it, is see it, where does it come from, what is its sources, is it reliable, is it trustworthy, all these things, and they don't rely on faith. Well, they rely on a governed scientific principle of tracking down the source and working out if it's true and if it will work and all these things. So I think it is interesting talking to you about it because religion is the other side of the spectrum where it's completely on faith. And I think the part for me which is difficult is you have the aspects of many times when people talk about religion, you have all the different books. You have the Quran, you have the Bible, and these are like people will say, well, this is the book that was given to by God almost, or in the sense of Islam. So it's almost like their evidence. And when I look at those, I feel like I want to dissect them. I want to pick them apart and say, well, look, this can't be right, or this was written so long ago that it has to be mythology in a way. To me, I have so many questions like this. And I think when me and you went to the pub and we talked about religion for like 3 hours, and I think at the end of it, the thing that I took away from it was that each of these religions, in their own way, they're almost like a tool made by humankind to communicate with God. Like you have a God, and then you have the religions, which is the tool that humans use to communicate to God. Because it's almost like if you are a person that believes in God or a higher power, you're almost trying to figure out the best way to communicate with a higher conscious being. And I do, after our conversation, I did kind of lead to believing that there is some sort of higher consciousness, and that humans have, as you said, because I didn't like the word God. I felt the stigma towards the word God. I can't imagine myself saying I believe in God. Like it was hard for me to get to that point. And you were just like, you said that's just the word that humans have chose to kind of describe the higher power. That you had to kind of get past that. And I think when you say it like that, it did make sense to me. And I have thought about it a lot more. I think that it's still difficult for me to have blind faith, but I am leaning towards the sense that there is a higher consciousness. Whether or not we can communicate with him in the sense that the way you talk about of communicating with God and letting them be in your life, that to me is still up to debate. But I think if I'm being blatant, just speaking outwardly, but I think it is super interesting, and I think it's interesting how it is a guide for people's beliefs and morals. Do you think it might be difficult coming to the UK where people aren't as believing in God? Have you found your place? You started to go into church, haven't you?
Oh yeah, I did.
Do you think that the Christians here are different to the Christians in Nigeria, or do you think they have just a lot of overlap and are similar?
Okay, yeah. I actually talked about this with a few of my friends. I was like, um, the Christians here, we like for the church I'm going to, because
Mm.
I spent a little while kind of like looking for a church that really aligns with my faith and how my relationship is with God, because I needed that. Um, and I then noticed that kind of like certain things, the way we have like the how the word is taught here, how like the worship and all that is done. It's kind of different. I'm not gonna lie. Like,
Yeah.
and I understand it has to do with like how we do things in Africa, or the kind of people we are, the kind of personality we are. So now
Mm.
in Nigeria, church and worship and all that, we're really loud, like
Mm.
loud. And you would have noticed this. Also, I'm a loud person. When we go out and they were chatting, I'm
Yeah.
like laughing. We're not caring about the next person. Everyone is just in their own thing. But then
Yeah.
over here, like really calm and gentle. So what we normally, when I was having some conversations with my friends, we call like the worship, we say white people worship, and then
Yeah.
like we the blacks worship. So like the songs they sing are really like calm and gentle,
Mm.
and but then we over our songs are like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
kind of like the Afrobeat, and it's
Yeah.
pumping. So both we worship and we dancing and shouting,
Yeah.
very energetic. Yeah, the Africans are energetic people, and we normally express it. And I feel like it's our own way of expressing, and God is happy with us. He likes that. Also here,
Yeah.
also it's your own way,
Yeah.
and it's good. It felt different, going to prayer meetings, seeing the way they pray in Nigeria. Everyone is praying loud, and the person who is leading the prayer is like, open your voices, lift up your voice, cry, shout. So God can hear you, and everyone is, really, really, yeah. So it's kind of like different. Here it's just like cool, just having like this nice song.
Yeah. Yeah, because
But
you know, one time I went with my girlfriend and one of my other friends. We we always look for really random events in London, right? We always try and find the most random things we can do, and we saw that there was one of these like gospel churches, uh, and we're like, oh, we'll just go, we'll just see what it's like, and we get there, and we're looking through the window, and there was no white people in there. Everyone was like, and I was like, oh, I don't know, I don't know if we're like we can go in because I've never been to anything like this before, and this woman came up to us and she was from the church. She was like, "Are you okay?" Like, and she was like, "Are you lost?" And I was like, "Oh no, like we want to come in and join." So she's like, "Okay, okay, like come in." So we went in there, and everyone's turned their head like, "Oh my god!" Like never seen a white person in church before, and we go, and everyone's standing up. There's like a guy on the stage running up and down the stage with his microphone, and everyone's like dancing, and everything. And I'd never been in a church environment that there was like a choir going on, like proper getting into it. And at the beginning, I felt sat out of place. I felt sat out of place. Everyone just kept looking at us like, what are these people doing? And it was great. Like I remember. So I was kind of sandwiched between my two friends, my girlfriend and my other friend. And my friend, the priest was like, turn to your neighbor, tell him how much you love him. And there's just this woman that grabbed my friend and was proper telling him. And it was, it was a fantastic experience. And, you know,
oh
it was
my.
just so fascinating to me how different it was. But yeah, I completely see if that's what it's like in Nigerian churches. I can see how much of a shock it'd be coming
Oh
to.
man. Yeah, that's what I grew up into. So that was like coming here was different. Oh man, everyone is still trying to be quiet, just contributing. But I kind of like it because that's also the kind of like person I would say I am. When
Yeah.
I pray, I'm not really loud. And when I'm in my personal space, I'm just quiet there and talking to God in a very calm and wonderful manner.
Mm.
And sometimes the place of prayer is not really a place of um, speaking; it's a place of listening. You see,
Mm.
because when you're speaking, you don't listen, and
Mm.
it's kind of like communication. Communication with God. You want to hear from Him too. You don't just want to come and blab about all your problems and challenges. You want Him to speak to you, and I know you will not understand that, but then
No, that's
you
right.
understand later.
No,
Don't
no,
worry, you get there. You
that's
get
no, but
there.
that's what I want to get on. Like, because when you say that, what
Yeah.
does it feel like to you when God is talking to you? Like when you're listening and God is talking to or like communicating with you, is it kind of like a thought that pops through your head? Like let's say you're thinking you're talking to God, and then there's the response. You have another thought after that. Is that thought after that you feel like it's kind of that is God's thought in a way, or what does it feel like to you?
Okay. So, um, for me personally, God has spoken to me in different ways. I've heard Him audibly, um, but that happens in dreams, like
Mm-hmm.
literally audibly, like it's God. And yeah. So, um, also with talking about like silencing your spirit, wanting to hear from God, and opening your heart to see um, what He has to say. Most times, like when I'm quiet like that, I'm mostly like going through the Word, like reading the Bible, and then because that's like the easiest starting points to hearing God, because
Yeah.
you go through the Word of God, like it's there for you. Just go through it. And that's also one of the challenge with a lot of people wanting to have relationship with God. They want to like follow kind of like a map that other people have. But then I keep telling them like the Bible is there literally. You can sit down, just sit down and say, okay, yes, I'm taking this leap of faith. God, I
Mm.
believe in I'm taking this leap of faith, Zach say I'm taking this
Yeah.
leap of faith and I believe you exist. So I'm going to read this Bible, just to get to know you more. Because you
Mm.
have to, if you don't take the leap of faith, that blind faith, it doesn't make sense. Nothing else. It doesn't just come together. So when you do that, and then you just read and read and read and go there, because it's literally words that are inspired by him. Some of them words actually he spoke to himself. So it's the word of God.
Mm.
And then you see how those words relate to your life and situations you're going through, and things. Your eyes just keep opening and you're like, wow, this is this. I never see this like this. And then you decide, okay, why don't I practice some of this? And then practicing it, you see results and you're like, whoa, this
Mm.
is real. And then, like I said, it keeps going deeper and deeper. The analogy I gave to you the last time about the blind man who have never seen,
Mm.
not even once, ever. Thinking about it, with the whole stuff we did with the with the 3 dimension and all
Yeah,
that crazy stuff. Yeah, like literally, I was telling you, like we were literally blinded. Can't see
yeah.
past
No,
3D.
I just to give people context of that conversation, you made a
Okay.
point about how it's almost like the way the comparison between like God and humans and the way they communicate, or how we're living in different worlds, is you imagine people that live on a 2D world, and they can only move side to side, up and down on this plane, and they can never imagine rotating or anything other than what's on that plane. Compared to someone that's living in the 3D world, they look at someone 2D and it's almost like limited, and they're on like a whole different dimension or a whole different plane.
Yeah.
And a 2D life, they wouldn't even be able to comprehend what a 3D life, a three-dimensional life would look
Well,
like. And
exactly.
it was a fantastic point, because I think in terms of it made sense to me how you viewed what a God, like how our lack of understanding of God would be if it was put in that sense. Like we wouldn't even be able to comprehend what a three-dimensional, if we were 2D, we wouldn't even be able to comprehend what a three-dimensional world would look like. And that's the same
Yeah.
where God would be on a different dimension that we would not necessarily understand. I think I had conversations with my girlfriend about after me and your conversation, and
Okay.
I compared it to like an ant, where it's an ant and a human. An ant can't even comprehend the feelings and emotions that humans have. We think about love and death and family, and comprehend all these different things that we create and these societies we build. And an ant is just there, it's just existing. It might have a feeling that someone else is there, but they can't really see that well. Um, so it's almost like that distance of consciousness. And
Hmm.
for me, that's what I wouldn't associate myself with any of the religions, because I have a feeling to myself they're too influenced by man. But in terms of believing in a God or a higher consciousness, I do have that feeling that now that there is the same way you get this distance of consciousness between an ant and a human, there could be very well a distance of consciousness between humans and a God that we cannot cross over. There's almost like a level that we can't understand, or we wouldn't be able to understand ever. Um,
Mhm.
so in a sense, I suppose you could call that my own spiritual journey, and that makes sense. What you're talking about is taking a leap of faith, and it's personal to each individual. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know if I would ever read the Bible. Maybe I will. Maybe next time, if we ever do a podcast again, David. Next time, I'll have read the Bible before, and I'll have some questions.
Yeah. Just it's a book. It's a
Yeah,
book. Just go through it. Just take it. You read a lots of books. You told me the last time you tried
yeah,
to learn some biology and stuff
yeah.
like that. Just read it also,
Okay,
Just see it's a book. So it's a book with books. So like list of books, and I can give you a recommendation of where to start,
good.
and then you start from there.
Okay, well, I'll throw it on the list. Well, I just wanted to say thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It's been a great episode, and I've had a lot of fun talking to you. So
Okay, okay. So we're
uh,
done?
we're done, and I hope to
Oh
see you again
my.
in the future. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, thanks, Zach.